welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor and today we're going over all of the books that I read in the month of September. But before I start the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you love all things books. September was a good month overall in quantity and in quality. I finished 9 books and I DNF'd 1 book, and I will get into that when we go through my reading wrap up. I think I am just finally getting back in the groove of things. I told myself that this year would be a bit of a transition year for me after finishing out my master's degree last year and kind of getting into a not so great job situation that I left earlier this year. So there's been a lot of highs and lows this year, and I feel like now as the year is starting to come to an end, I'm getting through a lot of things that I feel like I've been putting off that I need to, and that is finally rediscovering a love for reading and giving myself the time to do so. So, of the books I read this month, I read 1 classic, 3 fantasy, 3 romance, 1 dystopian sci-fi, 1 fiction, and 1 mystery. We had a good array of variety this month, and I feel like keeping variety, the variety is a spice of life. I listened to 1 audio, then I read 4 physical, and then 5 on Kindle, although I do have physical copies of some of the ones I read on Kindle. And then I read 5 adult, 4 YA, and 1 middle grade, and then 3 of the books were queer, and then I had 3 5-stars this month, and man, were some of those 5 stars just amazing. So without further ado, let's hop into all the books I read in the month of September. And I did complete my entire TBR for the month, so that is quite a feat. And one of those books on my TBR was Hamlet by Shakespeare. Obviously, Taylor Swift is releasing her 12th studio album this week that you're seeing this, and as I'm filming it, it's about 2 days away from hearing TS12, and she mentioned that Hamlet was inspiration behind one of the tracks. And then of course Hamlet kept popping up in some of the books I was reading. Is like, well, I need a refresher, because I did read it back in high school for I think AP literature, which was about 8 years ago, so my knowledge of it isn't quite fresh. I listened to it on Spotify Premium. The audiobooks or audio play whatever is 4 hours or less, so if you want to get a quick listen in before the album comes out, this one might be for you. I just have to say this, I'm not going to rate it because it's a classic book. I don't generally read classics for a reason, and I don't like Shakespeare, so I'm not going to say too much on it other than if you want to listen to it, it's a relatively quick listen. Then we kicked off the month with a fantasy reading vlog, and I finished 1.5 books for that one. The book that I did completely finish in that was Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan. Now, I picked this up last fall, but as most of you can probably recall, I got into a pretty big slump near the end of last year, so my fall reading was not great. But I picked this one up because it was on my TBR, and I knew I was going to do a fantasy reading vlog, and I was looking for something a little funny. So in Long Live Evil, we are following Ray. So at the beginning of the book, we find out that Ray is the eldest daughter. She and her sister share a love for this book series, Time of Iron, and Ray is dealing with cancer and basically coming towards the end of her life. But one night, a ghostly figure appears in her room and offers her a chance to live again. The only caveat is that she must enter the world of Time of Iron and assume one of the characters, and she must obtain this flower before she dies or gets stuck in there forever. And so Ray enters the world, and what do you know? She enters as Rahela, the villain, and lots of shenanigans ensue from there because Ray really leans heavily into the villainess, seductress vibes. This one was really fun. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars and 0.5 on the spicy rating. There's not really a lot of spice in there. There's a moment where it alludes to something happening, so don't read too much into it. And it is a little queer in here, but I will let you figure out that journey for yourself, because some of these characters I was spotting from a mile away of I see it, I see you. The only reason that this couldn't get a 5-star because it was really fun is because this is going to be a spoiler alert. One, there is a lot of modern language intertwined there, which we kind of knew, but the musical interlude scene, whatever that was giving too much of Riverdale for me. And yeah, so I in fact had to knock it down half a point, but I am excited to see where it takes us, because the book ended sort of where I kind of thought it would end, but also I must know what happens next. Then I started one of the Book Talk famous gothic romantic-y series, and that is Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This book was so fun and so good, and I did start it in that reading vlog, and then I finished it, post it, but you should see my rating in the vlog. We are following Signa, and ever since she was a little baby, she has been touched by death. She cannot die, she can see death, and she can interact and see spirits. And she spent her whole life regretting this because somehow every guardian that she has ever had has managed to die in her presence. But now she's being whisked away to a thorn grove where there is family there, but they're dealing with a lot of heavy trauma after the loss of the, mistress of the house and the current illness surrounding her daughter. And Signa basically tells Death, you cannot take her. You cannot take her. And then lots of things ensue from there as Signa is trying to figure out who's poisoning the daughter of the house, as well as trying to learn her powers and stuff like that. And of course, romance ensues. I gave this one 4.75 stars. Didn't get the 5-star feelings, but I really enjoyed it. I did see almost everything coming except for the whodunit. I must say the whodunit, it was like the tiniest, maybe tiniest inkling in the back of my head of like, maybe? But then, you know what? The red herrings got me. So I will say, Adeline, you did catch me there, and I'm excited to pick up Fox Club, hopefully this month, or hopefully in October. Then we started my Sabrina Carpenter albums Pick My Reads for a Week reading vlog, and the first one that got picked for that one, spoiler alert, is Love Arranged by Lauren Asher. This is the final book in the Interconnected Standalone series for Lakefront Billionaires, and I really enjoy this series. I will say some of the length of the books do kind of get me, so if you're not into lengthy romances and not really into slow burns, these might not be your things, and I will say some of the slow burn kind of got annoying for me, but this one was really good, and I mean, if you saw the vlog, you'll know that I gave it 5 stars and 1 chili spice. So in this story, we are following Lily and Lorenzo. Lily and Lorenzo have a chance encounter on a blind dating app, and then when they meet up in person, Lorenzo's like, actually, I might be falling a little too hard for you, need to create distance. So a few months later, once things have settled and Lorenzo is in the heat of battle for the mayoral debate, Lily proposes the idea of being his fake fiance, which he's been looking for a while because both of them want the other guy to lose because they both got beef with them. And while they are fake dating, fake engaged, and so on and so forth, their feelings for each other, start to come to light. And this one was just a really heartwarming story for me. Our main character, Lorenzo, does deal with OCD, and you will see that come out on page. And it was really interesting to see how their relationship developed. Is it a little bit of a slow burn for me? Maybe, and I don't love slow burns, but it's done in a way that I really enjoyed it because they really got to know each other and learn to how to, I don't know how to best to describe it other than you should probably read it, because it's a kind of love where it's like you're both trying to learn to get past the things that you're dealing with, and it deals heavily with grief. And if you know anything about me this past year, or just know anything about me, stories that deal with grief tend to hit me a little harder. Then I picked up Ignite Me by Tahara Mafi. This is the 3rd book in the Shatter Me series and the technical conclusion to the original trilogy. If you saw that reading vlog, you'll know that I finished this book in a day. I started reading it in the morning, and then I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna stop. That Monday was all dedicated to this and grocery shopping. That's all I basically accomplished that Monday. So needless to say, 5 stars, 1 chili spice. So I can't really tell you what this book is about, but I will give you a little synopsis of Shatter Me as a whole. So in the first book, we are following Juliet, whose touch is deadly, and she has been in prison for about a year, basically because the outside world cannot deal with her. But then she is recruited by Aaron Warner, who is a member of the reestablishment, the dystopian dictatorial authoritarian government, and they want her to become their torture device, and Juliet's like, no. And then we sort of follow from there. And then there's a little bit of a love triangle that ensues from here. And I will say this book had a beautiful conclusion to that love story. And if you want to know my thoughts on how this relates to the Sabrina Carpenter album that it was picked for, go check out the vlog. The last book for that blog was I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman, and this completes my entire Alice Oseman bibliography, or at least as far as I know from them. And hopefully, and I wanted to finish it this year because we know that Heartstopper's conclusion comes out next year. Now, this book doesn't belong in the same world of Heartstopper as far as I know, but I wanted to get it all done before it came out next year. So in this book, we are following a dual POV. We are following Angel and Jimmy. Angel's been a fan of the ARC for many years now, and she's meeting up with her internet best friend Juliet to essentially hang out for the week and go to a meet and greet to finally meet the ARC. And Jimmy is the lead singer, the frontman for the band The Ark. He is also trans. If you're looking for trans stories, this one could be for you. And he's dealing a lot with heavy anxiety, particularly around sort of the onslaught of fan and parasocial relationships that have, you know, taken over his life the past few years. And all the fame is kind of getting to him currently. So we are following a dual timeline, following Jimmy dealing with, you know, the success and the weight of that success on him and his anxiety really taking him over. And Angel kind of dealing with, you know, her love for fandom while also not quite knowing what she wants to do with her life. And then at one point, their lives intersect. And you know what? This one deals heavily with fan culture and stan culture as well as parasocial relationships. So do keep that in mind. There were moments where I was reading things that were happening to Jimmy that I'm like, oh, And the ending, I was very surprised that Alice took us there in the ending. But hey, it was really enjoyable. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and yes, it is queer. One of Jimmy's bandmates is bisexual, Jimmy is trans and gay, and then I'm quite sure Angel is asexual, although that is never explicitly stated. So if you're looking for queer read, this one might be for you. Moving into our final 5-star of the month, another highly anticipated read for me was Rewind It Back by Liz Tomforte. This is the final book in the interconnected standalone series Windy City. I do believe we are going to get a spin-off following one of the characters from the series, so I don't know that it's technically completely over, but I do believe that is going to be a separate entity in itself. And so in this one we are following Rio and Hallie. It is a second chance romance. Rio and Hallie were best friends when they were kids, when Hallie moved next door to him, and you know, flash forward however many years later, they broke up around college time, and now Hallie is living next door to Rio, and Rio, unbeknownst to him, hired her to be his interior designer. So now they are sort of forced to be together, a little forced proximity, to have to deal with everything that went down 6 years ago, I'm pretty sure. And let's just say, Rio, the man that you are, I love you. Plus, if you know anything about me, stories that revolve heavily around music make me so happy. I don't love second chance romances that much, but I feel like for some reason when I thought of Rio, I was like, this man has to have a second chance romance. He must be in love with like a childhood friend. And you know what? That's what it gave it. It was cutesy, it was spicy, it was heartwarming, and you know, 5 stars, 2 on the chili spice rating. Highly recommend the entire series. 3 Dark Crowns by Ken Dare Blake was my DNF for the month. This is a YA fantasy series following 3 different sisters who are born to the queen of this land, and each one possesses 3 different abilities. One is a naturalist, one is an elemental, and one is a poisoner. Poisoners are immune to poison. Naturalists, I'm pretty sure, can control animals and have familiars and stuff like that. And then elementals can control the element. And so at the beginning of this book, we are following those 3 sisters. And essentially, destiny says that one of the sisters must kill the other 2 sisters and assume the throne. And whichever power or powerhouse assumes the throne means that they get to take over. I'm not gonna lie, I got 25% in this and was like, 3 of those chapters made up 20% of that book. And I was bored and I just didn't care where it went. And I was also a little confused of why I was supposed to care about certain things. Maybe I found out more as it went on. I know this is the start of a 4 or 5 book series. So I know there's just going to be a lot of exposition. But the writing style and the story just didn't capture me enough to care to move on. So now it's on my Pango Books. So I'm going to be selling it. I'm getting rid of it to pick up the series that is one of my favorite series of all time. It was my favorite series as a kid. This is 39 Clues. This is the Unstoppable arc. So this is the 3rd arc in the series. I've read the first 2. The first one being the 39 Clues. The second one being Cahill's versus Vespers. And then there's a lot of interspersed tiny little books there. I can't really tell you much about this because then it kind of gives away some of the storyline of the first 2 books. And for those who haven't read them, I feel like you should. But if you don't know anything, this entire series is focused on Amy and Dan Cahill, who are essentially brought in to the world of the Cahill family, which has a very drastic secret that they've been keeping from these 2, and they essentially have to gallivant across the world to find these different secrets and clues while also trying to bring the family together. I gave it 4 stars. I love this series, and frankly, I just want to finish it out because there's a part of my childhood me that really gets invested every time I read these books. I do think I had actually read this book before, but yeah, I knew this was the point in the series where I had stopped. So yeah, really enjoyed it. It is a middle grade series, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who's looking for a good middle grade or who just likes a cutesy little mystery. Lastly, the book that I just finished last night, September 30th, The Fake Boyfriend Fiasco by Talia Hibbert. So this is actually the 3rd book in an interconnected standalone series. But it's not the third book in the series that I thought it was. It's for something else. So I technically read the third book first, but the other two books aren't on Kindle Limited as far as I can tell, and they're probably going to be a little harder for me to track down. So in the fake boyfriend Fiasco, we're following Arya and a man whose name I cannot remember. Which I guess, since I just finished it last night, I don't know. It's been a long day. But essentially, we are following Arya and the Greek footballer that she runs into at her best friend's wedding. And while she is there, this guy is trying to fend off the women who keep coming towards him because the man doesn't know how to say no, or basically how to reject women. So he asks her to kiss him to, like, fight this off. And then he's like, I actually might be falling in love with this beautiful stranger. So the next day, because Arya's like pushing against him, he proposes a fake boyfriend deal where he pays her to be his fake girlfriend. And then, of course, romance ensues from there. Now, I will say, I'm not going to mention what traumatic event is discussed during the prologue of the story, because I don't know if that it spoils what happens in the other two books, which if I had read the other two books, maybe I would have known this was coming. But there's a traumatic event that is mentioned during the first part of the book that basically leads Arya to not trust herself when it comes to love. And I don't know that was ever really addressed well, because I kept reading this, I'm like, this girl and her best friend must be messed up way more than what is discussed here. But I ended up giving it 4.25 and 2 chili spice. The one thing I will say, Talia Hibbert knows how to make them spicy and make them good. We also have a bisexual male lead in here, so if you're looking for bisexual male representation, this one might be for you. But those are all the books that I read in the month of September. I am so excited for October. We know how October is. Halloween's my favorite month, spooky season. I've already started one romance that I'm so excited to finish up this month, and we have some great reading vlogs coming. So let me know what your favorite read of September was. What would you like to see me read in October? And I will see y'all in the next one.